Hi, can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. Would like to welcome every one of you to the second unveiling of the Legacy Honoree Art Exhibit. My name is Joy Eminaya, and I have the opportunity to serve as the board member of Living Her Legacy. Living Her Legacy is a non-profit organization whose mission and goal is to inspire women, to celebrate women and inspire girls. In a world where we have been called to live above ourselves, this is a wonderful opportunity to highlight and celebrate women who have impacted our community, as well as challenge and motivate our younger generation to do something big. And so it is with great honor that I would love to welcome Patti Smith, our founder and executive director of Living Her Legacy.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't do anything without notes. You'll excuse me if I read part of this. So welcome to our Living Her Legacy exhibition installment of our next 4 Legacy Honorees Portraits. I'm Hattie Smith, the founder and executive director of Living Her Legacy. Living Her Legacy is the first historic outdoor public art exhibit to recognize women's accomplishments. You have to excuse me. I wear my heart on my sleeve, so bear with me. In Fort Collins and in the state of Colorado, we've not found anything like this any place in Colorado. The project was initiated under the Zonta Club of Fort Collins in 2014. We are now a 3.5-year-old 501c3, having initiated that process during the pandemic. It helped me because I couldn't go out and meet people, so I did the IRS application, which helped immensely. Our mission is recognizing women with ties to Fort Collins who have contributed to the fabric of our community, recognizing women's accomplishments to inspire girls' futures. Our aim is to create a generation of change makers who will impact their communities and the girls who come behind them with our women's art exhibit and our education programs for girls. You can see one of our education programs pictures. We initiated our high school girls leaders program last year. It ran from February to the end of August. This next week on Friday, we initiate our 5th grade girl role model art workshop with the Boys and Girls Club in Wellington. If you'd like to stay connected to our upcoming events and programs, please everybody sign the guest book with at least your name. I'm going to keep a guest book for all of our events. If you would like to stay connected and be a part of our newsletter we send out on a monthly basis, then please add your email. But there's no pressure to do that. Just your name I'd be very grateful. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to introduce Maren Bisdeck, the Fort Collins Historic Preservation Services Department Manager, to share a few words. As Maren joins me, Living Her Legacy partnered with the Fort Collins Historic Preservation Services Department in 2020, and we provided our community a speaker series about the suffragette movement, about our Legacy Honoree Theodosia Ammons, who was a suffragette locally and in Colorado and in the nation, and also about suffragettes in our own community. And you can hear these stories and take part in a walking tour that both Maren and Jim Bertolini, who she works with, also spoke about during our presentation. So we were very grateful. And you can find those on our YouTube channel, which is Living Her Space Legacy. So thank you, Maren, for joining us today. That was fun. Okay. Can you all hear me okay? Good afternoon. I'm Maren Bisdeck. I am the Historic Preservation Manager for the City of Fort Collins. And thank you, Patti, for inviting me to come and just
make a few remarks today at today's unveiling. Our city's history matters, and the individual stories of everybody who has made this the strong and vibrant and increasingly diverse community that we have today, all of those individual stories matter. But many of those stories remain untold, particularly in our public sphere. And we know that when today's community members, particularly our youth, look for inspiring figures that they feel represented by from our past, it should be easy for them to find those stories around them and to find stories they can relate to, whether those be achievements or struggles of past community members. And the great thing is that we, the people who live in Fort Collins today, have the opportunity to make that happen. We can create better representation of our full community in our history exhibits, our walking tours of historic places, our classroom lessons, our street names, and in public art projects like Living Our Legacy. So on behalf of the city of Fort Collins, I really want to convey gratitude and respect for Patti Smith, all of the board members, volunteers, and donors and supporters of this project, and your leadership in the community to make this happen, and recognize the women leaders who have shaped Fort Collins in the past and the present and beyond Fort Collins. These individual stories are unique. Each one you can learn different lessons from. And I think it's important that the prominent location of this in the heart of our Old Town Historic District makes it possible for so many people who live here to learn about these women, and also for many of our visitors, because we know this is where everybody comes when they come to Fort Collins. And so it's really the perfect location. And the DDA and CooperSmith and the partnership to make it happen here is another important thing for all of us, I think, to remember and recognize. So again, to the Living Her Legacy founder, Patti Smith, and for all of the rest of you who are here, thank you. And I'm really honored to be here on behalf of the city today at the unveiling. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Maren. Can you? Hello? Testing? Okay, good deal. So thank you very much for coming today. I really appreciate it. Before I introduce our special guest today, I want to share a little history of Living Her Legacy's journey. The concept originated in 2013 from a visit to the convention center when I took a wrong turn to find my car after attending an event. On the east side of the convention center, under the service drive overhang, I saw 80 beautiful mosaic portraits without a sign, nothing to tell me what it was. And later discovered these 40 men and 40 women that I saw in these beautiful mosaic portraits had helped to create the foundation for the state of Colorado. As I was a member of the Zonta Club at Fort Collins, and our mission is supporting women and girls locally and globally, I thought, why can't we recognize women who have created an impact in our community? And 8 years ago, the Living Her Legacy concept was born. So after 3 years' time, 7 selection events with over 100 community members' nominations, and many who participated in our selection event processes, we selected 48 notable women to be our Legacy Honorees. And here we are today to recognize the next 4 notable women who have left indelible impacts in our community. Our criteria for this selection process is as follows. Visionaries for change by following their heart's passion. Role model for girls and women. Made a difference demonstrating her commitment, courage, and resilience. As a reminder, I invite you all to please sign the guest book and pick up a brochure with a bookmark in it, which has on it a statement from one of our other Legacy Honorees, Dr. Joan King. Before I introduce our Legacy Honorees, I want to share a little bit about our artist and the artistic process. Rachel Davis has been my partner since the beginning. She has her master's in fine art from CSU, and has been recognized locally and nationally with her artistic talents. Here in Fort Collins, she has an art piece in the Emporium, although they don't have names on them, unfortunately, in the Emporium, but she has one on the wall. And she also has a floor-to-ceiling art piece at the Cycle Apartments Welcome Center, which is just east of the mall. She has several art pieces commissioned for locations in Denver, in addition to being accepted in 2 international art exhibits back east, and she has won numerous other artistic awards. Her process is a woodcut reduction process similar to Picasso's work, and it takes her 20 to 30 hours per portrait from a photo. We are blessed to have Rachel as our artistic director and our portrait artist. And her daughter Claire is here today helping me. And Rachel would be here, but she moved this last November to Omaha to be closer to her mom, who is needing her help. So now I have the pleasure to introduce you to our next 4 Legacy honorees whose portraits we will unveil today. Now to the women of the hour. I will introduce each Legacy honoree and read their bio to introduce you to each of these notable women. First, we begin with the founding mother of Fort Collins, Elizabeth Auntie Stone. The first white woman, and I just want to share with you, these bios were written by Barbara Fleming. Barbara Fleming, as many of you know, has written the Fort Collins history column in the Coloradoan for over 15 years. She was a dear friend of mine and my wordsmith for 6 years. And we all miss her. And just as a side note, I adopted her cat Shadow, who lives with us now. So Elizabeth Auntie Stone, the first white woman to come to Fort Collins, which was still Camp Collins at that time, was Elizabeth Stone, who arrived in 1865 to provide meals for officers at the camp. She came with her second husband, Lewis, who died not long after their arrival. Her cabin, which he built, is now located in Library Park. Her early life, Elizabeth Hitchcock was born in Hartford, Connecticut in 1801. She married Dr. Ezekiel Robbins, with whom she had 8 children in 1824. They moved first to St. Louis and then to Chester, Illinois, where Dr. Robbins died of cholera in 1852. In 1857, she married Judge Lewis Stone, and in 1862, they crossed the plains to Denver to settle there. History does not reveal whether any of her children accompanied her or not. Elizabeth Stone was experienced in being hospitable. In Langola, Minnesota, they operated a hotel and a dining room. In Denver, they opened a restaurant. Then they met Dr. Timothy Smith, a physician and surgeon at the military camp established along the banks of the Cashlaputa River north of Denver. He persuaded them to relocate to the camp and open a mess hall for the soldiers. Their 2-story home at the camp, the first private dwelling in Fort Collins, soon became a boarding house for Army officers. Elizabeth must have been lonely as the only woman around and the only Anglo woman anywhere in the area. She persuaded her widowed niece, Elizabeth Keyes, to come to the fort along with her young son, Wilbur. Henry Peterson, an early settler here, accompanied them on the trip. The upstairs of Auntie's house became a schoolroom, with Elizabeth Keyes as the first teacher. But Auntie's niece had not been here too long before she remarried, joining Harris Stratton in the first wedding ceremony in Fort Collins. In 1867, the U.S. government closed the military fort. Undaunted, Auntie opened her home as a hotel for travelers. She also sold pies, bread, milk, and butter. A born entrepreneur, she and Peterson launched a new project, a grist mill to convert wheat to flour. They encountered a setback when Henry was accosted and robbed of $3,000 on his way to buy machinery for the mill. But resilient Auntie Stone raised the money again and sent her partner off once more. This time he succeeded. The mill was built along the riverbank. Not content with that success, Auntie Stone decided to build a brick kiln. The 3-story structure was for quite some time the tallest building in town. In 1872, after the government had released the land where the fort had been, Fort Collins became officially a town. Laid out by Franklin Avery, the new town featured north-south streets named for town founders and east-west streets named for foliage. Auntie continued her oversight of the mill and purchased other property in town, becoming a landlord as well as a business owner. She often invited church pastors to stay at the hotel, hoping to encourage them to start churches here. Throughout the remainder of her days, Elizabeth Stone continued to enjoy visits with family, traveling, including a train ride to Salt Lake City in 1885, and hosting dinners. By 1893, she was confined to a wheelchair, but maintained a cheerful outlook on life. When she went to the polls for the first time in 1894, she said, "I've waited a lifetime for this privilege." She died a year later, on December 4th, 1895. When her casket was put in the ground at Grandview Cemetery, the firehouse bell tolled 94 times to mark her passing. Business was also suspended in the town for 2 hours during her funeral. As the first Anglo woman in Fort Collins, Elizabeth Stone opened the door for more women to come to the new town, first inviting her niece, Elizabeth Keyes. She was also the first woman entrepreneur, the first female landlord, and the woman hotelier. She traveled across the plains in a Conestoga wagon at a time when Native Americans were actively resisting immigration, built the first civilian structure in town, and offered her hospitality to the lonely soldiers. She was a robust model for women and girls in any era. So let's congratulate, in her absence, Auntie Stone. Next, I'd like to invite Denise Freestone to come and join me, please. So allow me to introduce you to Denise and her impact in our community. Denise, a pioneer in bringing theatrical offerings to Fort Collins, Denise Freestone co-founded Open Stage Theater with her husband, Bruce Freestone, after graduating from Colorado State University with a degree in theater arts. She has taken part in every aspect of play production and has helped establish the Amateur Theater Company as a regular aspect of cultural life here. Denise Burton was born in Denver and graduated from South High School in 1967, following which she moved to Fort Collins to attend CSU, where she met her husband, Bruce. The couple married and soon afterward founded the theater company. When Bruce suggested the idea, Denise told him he was insane. Is that true? Yes. But they forged ahead anyway. She graduated from CSU in 1975. When the Freestones founded the theater company in 1973, the only other performing arts groups in Fort Collins were the Symphony Orchestra and the Children's Theater. Performances took place in churches or schools or at the university. The first performance of Open Stage was in an open stage outdoors on the grass in City Park. The new theater group mounted a production of the play Thieves' Carnival. Despite several setbacks, cast members quit in the midst of rehearsals. The city was reluctant to grant a permit for the performance in the park, and business owners and individuals required considerable cajoling to loan props and costumes. My, how times have changed. But with perseverance and determination, the company was launched and is now a regular part of the cultural scene in Fort Collins. After the Lincoln Center was built, the theater company had a reliable venue for performing. Denise credits Open Stage with launching a cultural revival here. Denise has had leading roles in several Open Stage productions, including August, Osage County, Wit, Doubt, Noises Off, The Glass Menagerie, Macbeth, and The Belle of Amherst. She has directed numerous productions as well as designing sets and producing plays. Directing credits include The Comedy of Errors, The Three Musketeers, The Taming of the Shrew, The Tempest in a Midnight Summer Dream. In 1990, she served as assistant director of the CSU Institute for Women in Leadership. Now retired, she is resting on her laurels. Open Stage has received the Governor's Award for Excellence in the Arts and the Colorado Theater Guild Henry Award for Outstanding Regional Theater. Denise has been honored as a Biz West Magazine of the West and a Colorado Woman of Influence. Her legacy: Denise initiated a theater that creates a space where ethnic, social, and religious boundaries dissolve in the joy of performing and the satisfaction of having touched people's lives. The pleasures and rewards audiences gain from seeing the performances add immeasurably to her enduring contributions. I know.
Well, I am incredibly honored to be part of her living legacy and to be included among these 48 influential, dynamic, and powerful women, and is truly humbling. And especially to stand alongside the three phenomenal women being recognized today. all of whom faced and overcame, I'm going to cry, that's all right, all of whom faced and overcame challenges that would daunt and defeat most of us. So I would like to take a moment to applaud Hattie Mcdaniel for her courage as a woman of color in an industry that has been historically racist, Gladys Eddy for her amazing accomplishments as a woman in higher education on behalf of women, and Auntie Stone, the mother of Fort Collins, for her grit and heart. A special thanks to the indefatigable Hattie Smith, who is herself a living legacy through her commitment to this project and to the women of our past and our future. Thank you. I value this recognition from her living legacy, not just for myself and my journey, but also as a validation of Open Stage Theater and Theater and Company's journey, which began almost 50 years ago in 1973. The odyssey to be embraced and valued by a larger community has been both joyful and arduous, but we have endured and indeed prospered, not least because we value our artists. Being a creative is not an easy road to travel. Our raw material is ourselves, and to succeed, we must open our hearts and be brutally honest with ourselves, putting everything we are and have created on display for public consumption. Our courageous ensemble family of artists are the soul of our productions. Many of them are here today. Thank you so much for being here. But the talent and dedication of our artists is meaningless without our audience. They are the lifeblood of our art. Theater exists only in that singular moment created together by artists and audience. We firmly believe, indeed we know from our hearts and our experience, that this communion between artist and audience, the sharing in the power of theatrical story, alters the very fabric of our community. Our audience and our artists take the tears and laughter, the revelations and inspiration of this theatrical magic into the larger community. And by doing so, they broaden the depth and understanding of the entity that is Fort Collins and nurture and strengthen our city's civility, compassion, and conscience. Thank you. May the work continue, and may our women continue to overcome the obstacles and give voice to our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we are honored to have you with us today. And our whole community thanks you from the bottom of our hearts. The next Legacy Honoree I want to introduce to you is Gladys Eddy. Throughout her career, Gladys Eddy advocated for women and girls, particularly as to their roles in the business world. She advanced the status of women on the college campus, developed a student governance model that has served as a model on other campuses, and created a Women's Honor Society, among other initiatives. She received many accolades and awards for her work. Gladys was born on Christmas Day in 1915 in Castle Rock, Colorado, to William and Jessie Schellenbarger. She was valedictorian of her graduating class at Littleton High School and earned a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Denver in 1937. As she was hired, she was hired as an assistant instructor at the Colorado State College of Agricultural and Mechanic Arts in Fort Collins, Colorado, and met her future husband, Willard Eddy, at a reception for new faculty there. They were married in 1938. Hired to teach vocational education part-time, she also served as secretary to the college president, Roy Green. At her urging, the college began offering courses in administrative management. Eventually, additional classes in business led to the creation of the College of Business, thanks to her efforts. Under her leadership, the college expanded offerings for women who had previously been able only to major in home ec or chemistry. And actually, when I graduated from high school, the offerings were basically nursing, and I'm a nurse because of my mother was a nurse, or a teacher, or get married on the farm and have children who could work in the fields. That seems so long ago. Gladys created the Association of Women Students as well as the Honor Society for Women Students. Thanks to her advocacy, a chapter of Mortarboard, a National Honor Society, was formed at the college. She worked with the Business College Council, a student governance board, and was assistant to the dean of the College of Business for a number of years until her retirement in May of 2007. Throughout her tenure at CSU, she oversaw annual business days, she brought in well-known, highly regarded guest speakers who shared their experiences and expertise. In 1984, she was appointed by President Ronald Reagan to serve on the National Advisory Council on Vocational Education. She received the Charles A. Laurie Public Service Award from Colorado State University in 1994, the Community Builder Award from Fort Collins Service Clubs in 1984, the Outstanding Woman of Colorado Award from the Colorado Federation of Business and Professional Women in 1975, and the Outstanding Woman Teacher Award from CSU in 1973. Through her work and her actions, Gladys Eddy promoted the status of women and girls, beginning well before the women's rights movement gained attention and achieved progress in the United States. As a professional woman in what was primarily a man's field, she demonstrated skill, initiative, and the ability to do her job well, thereby helping to forge a place for women in the world of business. She was an excellent teacher for whom her students had great respect. So help me recognize Gladys Eddy and her actions. Our final honoree today, I want to introduce you as Hattie Mcdaniel. Many of you may not know, there's a house on Cherry Street with their name in front of it, that she grew up here and then they moved to Denver. Hattie Mcdaniel advanced her race with every role she played. As a Black woman seeking success in Hollywood in the 1930s, she refused to say derogatory words about her people on screen and only took roles which would show her race favorably. She is best known for her role as Mammy in the film Gone with the Wind, for which she was the first Black person to win an Oscar. Until she was about 8 years old, when her father, Henry Daniel, moved the family to Denver, Hattie lived on Cherry Street in Fort Collins. Born in 1893 in Wichita, Kansas, she attended Franklin School here and played with her neighbor, Ruth Collimer, who remembered her as a sweet girl with a ruffled bonnet and a wide smile. Even after the McDaniel family moved to Denver and as adults, the two remained fast friends. Hattie attended high school in Denver, which is where she got her start as an actress. Hattie's two brothers, Otis and Sam, and her sister Etta, started performing vaudevillian acts on stage, and Hattie, not wanting to be left out, joined them. For a time, they had a performing band, and Hattie sang. She performed with a Black touring ensemble, Melody Hounds, in the 1920s, and then she had a stint on radio, singing the group's songs. She was living in Milwaukee when the stock market crashed in October of 1929 and performed on stage at a club there before moving to LA in 1931 to join her siblings. Her first film was The Golden West in 1932, in which she played a maid. Gradually, she obtained larger roles on screen, appearing in The Little Colonel with Shirley Temple and having a lead role in Judge Priest, in which she has a duet with Will Rogers. She went on to have major roles in several films. Gone with the Wind came out in 1939. Hattie did not attend the film's premiere in Atlanta because seating at the theater was segregated. Dismayingly, the Los Angeles hotel where the Oscar ceremony was held was also segregated. Hattie had to sit away from the other actors in the film to receive her Oscar. Hattie was one of several Black homeowners who had purchased houses in Pasadena, California, whose move into the West Adams neighborhood was protested by the whites living there. The case went to court in 1945 and was thrown out by the judge, so the homeowners were allowed to remain. Her home became known as a favorite of actor Clark Gable, among others. They appeared together in Gone with the Wind. Hattie was on the horns of a dilemma. To pursue her career in films, she had to avoid civil rights protests and actions and was subject to criticism by the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. She had a white agent and many white friends among the acting community in Hollywood. During World War II, she helped provide entertainment for soldiers stationed at military bases. Since the military was segregated, she entertained at bases where blacks were stationed. Black people were not allowed to serve on white entertainment committees. She made numerous personal appearances and helped raise money for war bonds. Betty Davis, a famous actress of that time, was a member of Hattie's acting troupe. Hattie never had children. She married 3 times, losing one husband to death and divorcing 2 others. At age 59, she developed breast cancer, at that time untreatable, and died in 1952. She was buried at Rosedale Cemetery because the owner of the Hollywood Cemetery would not allow her remains to be buried there. Although her Oscar was willed to Howard University, its whereabouts are unknown to this day. Hattie appeared in numerous films. She earned accolades from her performing peers for her skill. She has 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, one for her work in radio and the other for her work in motion pictures. A film of her life, Beyond Terra, The Extraordinary Life of Hattie Mcdaniel, was aired on television in 2001. She has been honored with a postage stamp. Her great-nephew, Kevin Goff, described her as a compassionate and very loving woman. She was highly regarded by Hollywood personalities such as Tallulah Bankhead, Joan Crawford, and Bing Crosby, respected by other professionals and valued for her contributions to the advancement of her race in Hollywood. So help me recognize Hattie. So we have these wonderful individuals who have impacted our community, and these are only 4 of 48, and only 48 of many that are not recognized yet in our community. We are so excited to share this unveiling with you today. I send our gratitude to all who have helped us arrive at this moment in time. The initial support came from Matt Robinault, the DDA Executive Director, Ed Stoner, previous Old Town Realty, Dwight Hall, CooperSmith Brewery President, and Karen McWilliams, previous Foreclosure Historic Preservation Services Department Director, and her board, who provided us in December of 2014 the approval to go ahead and do this. There are so many more that have helped us get to this moment, and we thank each and every one of you. If you'd want to join us in supporting this art project and our education programs, there is a donation link on the handout that you are invited to the following events that I have listed. If you would like to support us with a small donation. As we finish our afternoon together, a little windblown, I want to highlight a few upcoming events from the handout on our guest book table. Join us May 11th at Poor Brothers Community Tavern for their community night supporting Living Her Legacy. From 5 to 7, we will have music and fun. It's a nice environment to come visit with friends for a couple hours. And all of the tips go to the nonprofits. I don't know if you're aware, but on Wednesday evenings, Poor Brothers hosts a community night for a different nonprofit. May 14th, our next speaker series, 2 p.m. Saturday, live on our Facebook and YouTube channel. I host this series the second Saturday of every month at 2 o'clock, and it'll run through December 10th. Impactful Women, Inspiring Lives is the title of this series. Also on the events calendar, you'll see we have 3 golf tournaments coming up. Something I said I'd never do because I grew up helping my dad with a golf tournament for kids in our community in North Dakota. But hence, we will have our golf tournament in October, our first one for Living Her Legacy. Never say never. It's kind of like raising children. Never say never. And so it's called the No Hope to Rudy Golf. And Shella, raise your hand. Shella's on our board, and Shella works at Sprague Roofing and Exteriors. And they are sponsoring Living Her Legacy and Hope Lives with 3 golf tournaments. So the first one that is their golf tournament is May 20th, right? And then Hope Lives tournament is September 12th, and ours will be October 17th. So if you know anybody who likes to play golf, anybody who would like to potentially sponsor any of these tournaments, please let us know. We are looking for golfers, of course. And anybody who sponsors all 3 or plays in all 3 will have their name put in the hat for a golf outing. We have 3 different packages that have been donated to us, which are 3 different golf packages. One in Durango. My son is the head golf pro at the Glacier Club, so one of them is playing golf there and staying in Durango. And Shelley, can you tell the other ones? One in Grand Junction. And Elise, who works with Hope Lives, her parents own her parents or her relatives own a winery, so it'll be a winery tour and a golf outing there. And where's the third one? In Telluride. So if you'd like to have your name put in the hat, consider playing in all three, or a sponsorship for all three. But even if you'd like to come just for one, we'd welcome you with open arms. There is a sponsor opportunity. You'll see the magazine is open to Discover Fort Collins if you haven't seen it. We are asking our community to invest $2,500 for each of our Legacy honorees to help in sponsoring the art project. I'm a bit of a risk taker. I went into an agreement, a handshake. I grew up on a farm, a handshake agreement with a sculptor in Boulder. And next year, when I finish paying off the $26,400 fee for these beautiful bronze frames that will go around each of these windows, we will put up the first 12 women again, because the way it's going to go starting next year is, instead of being on this type of laminate panels that adhere to the windows, they will be on 1/4-inch thick metal panels that are 50-year graffiti and weatherproofed material. And then they will be inserted in between the bronze frames. And Belgian was an engineer for 10 years before she followed her passion in art and sculpture, being a sculptor. And she went home to the Middle East and came back that Christmas after I met her, and she said, I figured out what I'm going to do. She said, looking at your 3 criteria, I found a bird that raises their young based pretty close to your criteria. So each of these bronze frames will have 2 birds on either side, and on the bottom, she wrote, woman is sacred. So it's going to be absolutely beautiful when we get to that point next year. So in September of this year, we will put up the next 3 of the first 12 women that were selected on the last Sunday in September at 2 p.m. as well. And we are going to initiate our 5th grade girl role model art workshop this next Friday. I still have slots open for female volunteers. You will be paired with a 5th grade girl at the Boys and Girls Club in Wellington. And the first hour, I have another artist that's working with us that has done this for over 5 years in the Loveland School District with their Martin Luther King Education Week. And so she will facilitate this process. And so the first part of this project, you will get to know each other, you and the 5th grade girl you're paired with. And we're going to pair the adult female with the 5th grade girl by drawing names out of a hat, is how we're going to do that. And so the first part of it will be visiting with word prompts from Trish. She'll guide this process. The next part, one of our Legacy honorees is going to come and speak and share her life journey. And then the last part, you will create an art piece together about what was talked about, role models and mentors and what you learned and all of that. It'll be a triptych. A triptych I didn't know until Trish told me is like in photography, it's 3 panels, but when you stand back, it looks like all one big photograph. And then they're going to be 11 by 14 size. You will sign each. The 5th grade girl and the adult female participant will sign each. We'll frame them, and one goes home with the girl, one goes home with the adult female participant, and the other we keep for our nonprofit to show the community what we're doing in the community. So, so those are some opportunities for participation. And so one last thing that I'd like to share for you to consider is, please go to our website, www.livingherlegacy.org. For the last year and a half, Sonia Cooper, who is one of my board members, has spent 3 to 4 hours a week with me, and we have completely rewritten our website. It looks nothing like the website that I managed for 5 years, thank heavens. So please take a few moments and go look at this beautiful creation that is now out to the public. So at this time, before I do our conclusion, Joy, if you'll come help me, and we will open these curtains. on up and have your picture taken.
Despite being a failure, I hate having my picture.
Yeah, well, sorry. Okay, good. So in conclusion, we want to thank you for spending your Sunday afternoon with us. Invite your family, friends, and colleagues to stop by here in Old Town to see our art exhibition and learn about these incredible women on our website. We also invite you to like our Facebook and Instagram pages and follow them and share them. Thank you to Carl Alexander for providing sound today. Maren for coming to join us, and Joy and your family for helping take pictures. Her husband has been helping as our photographer today too, so we certainly appreciate all of our volunteers. Thank you very much. Thank you again for joining us for this momentous occasion as we are blessed to bring these notable ladies' life journeys to the forefront in our community. Thank you very much. It is. That's exactly right. Yes. You too, Jen. Girl, where should you be? Do you want one on either side? Yep, either side. Okay. Either side? Oh, wait, next one. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, all the board colleagues. Third, please, third.
Yeah.
Rachel is just
Yeah, all the old people. Luis gets to stand in the front. Why? You were
Scooch. Let me move this out of your way.
Noah. Carla. Yeah. It's open seat. School picture. Come on. Come over.
I can see everybody.
Greg? Come on.
Okay, if you're from open space, look at me for a sec.